watching The Breakdown with the fight analyst, Garrett Kerman.
What's up, everyone? I am the fight analyst, Garrett Kerman, and this is The Breakdown. This show is to break down every UFC fight card from a betting perspective to make you guys a ton of money. We are going to be breaking down this weekend's fight card, UFC Fight Island 7, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Guys, I have a special guest coming on later in this show to break down the main card with us. So stay tuned throughout this entire show before we can get to the breakdown with one of my very good friends and UFC possibly superstar in the making. But before we get into the breakdown, I got to shout out our sponsor, Manscaped. Guys, head over to Manscaped.com and get some of the best male grooming products on the market. Use promo code TFTA20 for 20% off your order plus free shipping. All right, guys, man, I am super stoked. Fights are back after a 3-week hiatus. We are back on track. Money to be made. Fights on our TVs. I know I've been missing it a ton, and I know you guys have as well. So let's just jump right into the breakdown right now. All right, so the first fight on the preliminary card, we have a fight at 125 pounds in the women's flyweight division between Yanan Wu and Joselyne Edwards. Right now, Wu is a minus 170 favorite, and to come back on the newcomer, the debut fighter of Joselyne Edwards, who's taking this fight on short notice. I think it's about a 2-week short notice fight because Betch Correa actually had to get surgery and she had to pull out of the fight. So the newcomer is a plus 150 underdog. All right, so when it comes to this fight, I didn't really dig too deep into this one because of the fact that it's not a fight that I really want too much of my hard-earned money on. I don't trust Wu with my money. I definitely don't trust Joselyne Edwards either, who really hasn't fought anyone on the regional scene. She's fighting at 125, I believe, for the first time in her career. She's normally a bantamweight fighter. They're going to be around the same height. I think Wu is probably about a 5'8", and Joselyne Edwards is 5'6". So there is not much of a big difference, even though Edwards is actually normally a bantamweight. So. But man, this is extreme low-level women's MMA fights. And normally, I will tell you guys just to pass altogether, not even dog or pass. I'm talking just straight up pass. And if you guys watch some of my other podcasts, like the Fighter and the Analyst or the Inside the Distance podcast, you guys know the first fight's either round 1 or decision. This time, this fight's going to a decision. I would probably parlay the over 2.5 rounds in this fight if you could. But this is a fight I'm telling you guys, stay clear, stay far away. There's other good spots on this card. It's not you don't have to bet every single fight on every single card. And that's how we make money. We have to stay disciplined, money management, and that's how we make the money in long term. So, guys, please pass in this fight. I'm not doing it because I didn't do the research. It's just that it's not a fight that I am overly interested in trusting either one of these two with my money. All right, so next up in the middleweight division, we have a fight between Nassourdine Imavov and Phil Hawes. Right now, Phil Hawes is a minus 150 favorite, and the comeback on Imavov is a plus 130 underdog. This is a very interesting fight. I think this is a very, very good underrated fight as well. Phil Hawes is coming in like a bat out of hell. He's looked phenomenal. Coming in on, I think, a 2 or 3 fight win streak and emphatic fashion. He's finishing guys in the first round. I mean, his last knockout was pretty brutal against a newcomer in Australia. I kind of forgot his name, but I know he trained with Robert Whittaker. But man, that was a brutal finish. Contender Series as well, another brutal finish there. He's looking good. He's looking more polished since going over to Stanford MMA, and I just think he's progressed a lot. In comes Imavov. This is his second fight in the UFC. He fought Jordan Williams. He looked really, really good in that fight against Jordan Williams. But I don't think Jordan Williams is the athlete that Phil Hawes is. Doesn't have the power that Phil Hawes does. Doesn't have the wrestling that Phil Hawes does. My only concern with Phil Hawes is his cardio and if he doesn't get an early finish. So that's where it leads me to want to kind of live bet this fight. I know you're getting a good line on Hawes right now at -150. I know I've seen a lot of people taking Imavov because they just like to fade Phil Hawes against a decent competition. And, rightfully so. We've seen it time and time again that, he tends to fold against higher tier competition, but we really don't know if Imavov is really higher tier of competition. Really, the best person that Imavov has fought is Jordan Williams. So it's going to be a good close fight. If I'm leaning towards the side, I think the athleticism, the power, the wrestling of Phil Hawes will be able to take out Imavov. But then again, like I said, if it comes to a point where he doesn't get the first round finish and he's looking gassed, guys, head over to your live betting scenario and take Imavov just to hedge yourself, because that's where the money's going to be made. This whole year, guys, I'm going to be live betting my ass off. I think that is where the money is to be made, especially on some of these dogs. You'll get them plus 200, plus 300 after round one, or even some of these favorites, who kind of lose the first round. And that's how they normally fight. They fight slow. And we're getting into other fights coming up in regards to that as well. But yeah, with this fight, it's definitely a good live betting fight. I would take Hawes at -150, and then if we see him tend to fade after that first round, I would hedge our bets there and take Imavov, which he should be down the scorecards after one round, because I think the power, the wrestling, and just the pace and the pressure of Hawes should have him winning round one. So I'm taking Phil Hawes to win this fight. And like I said, if we see him slowing down after the first round, I would go ahead and hedge that bet on a live bet after round one. All right. So next up in the welterweight division, we have a fight between David Zawada and Ramazan Emeev. Right now, Emeev is a -255 favorite, and the comeback on Zawada is a +215 underdog. All right, this is I'm a big fan of Emeev. I think he's a lot underrated. He's looked good in his UFC career thus far. I know he's had some blips against the top tier, not really top tier competition, but good competition. But I mean, I think he runs away with this fight all day. I don't like the price tag at -255. I do like him to win via decision, because majority of the wins are by decision. He normally just tries to outpoint his opponents at distance and just avoid their shots or take them down and just ground and pound and grapple and just wear his opponents out. And that's normally how he wins his fights. And I think it's going to be more of the same here. I don't see Zawada really having the power to take on Emeev, who I believe hasn't been knocked down in his career. He's only been finished via guillotine choke. And I don't think he has the jiu-jitsu game off his back to really threaten Emeev either. So I'm taking Emeev here. I think he should win a solid, dominant decision. And you can get that at -110. I think that's a pretty good line, considering majority of his wins are by decision. So, all right. Next up in the middleweight division, we have a fight between Punahele, Soriano, and Dusko Todorovic. Unfortunately, some bad news, because there was a fight before this fight. a fight between Nick Lentz and Mike Grundy is now off the cards because Grundy was tested positive for COVID. So my thoughts goes out to him for not being able to fight. I know it's a tough pill to swallow. I'm a big fan of his, and he's a damn warrior. So hopefully he gets better. It gets better soon, so he can get right back in there and get another fight. Hopefully with Nick Lentz, because that was a fight where I was taking a shot on Grundy because I think his wrestling would be able to stifle the jiu-jitsu and the striking of Nick Lentz, especially at this time of Nick Lentz's career where he's kind of dwindling down. He's towards the end of his career. I don't think he would have had much for Grundy in that matchup. Unfortunately, we lose the play. But that's that's what we got going on now in the COVID filled environment that is MMA. So that is very unfortunate, but things move on, and we're looking at this fight at 185 pounds in the middleweight division between Soriano and Todorovic. Right now, Todorovic is a minus 160 favorite, and the comeback on Soriano is a plus 140 underdog. This is going to be a banger. This is going to be a really good fight. Todorovic really showed what he's capable of in his last fight, and he looked a lot better than his Contender Series fight where he kind of faded towards the end. And, there was a lot of hype of him coming into that fight too at 9-0. So he was an undefeated prospect. But then he came in and absolutely starched his opponent in his last fight. So, I mean, granted, it wasn't, the highest level of competition, but he went in and absolutely dominated from bell to bell, and which is what you want to see from someone who's 10-0. He fought good competition on the regional scene as well over, I believe, in Russia and all of that. So it's not like he's fought really bad competition. He's got really good striking. He's long. He's even got underrated grappling as well, as he showed in his last fight. So I think he's coming in really, really hot. And then you got Soriano. I know he's an absolute brute and he's a powerhouse, but I think there's a lot of holes in his game. He has to rely a lot on his brute strength and taking his opponents down, and that one punch knockout power to really get it done. And I think Todorovic is just too technical. I think he'd be able to avoid getting taken down, and I think he's got enough power to really put a hurting on Soriano. I don't know why they're really putting two prospects up against each other. I think both these guys got bright futures, but Todorovic, I think he's got the better and the more experience against the better competition, against the tougher competition outside of the UFC. And for what we've seen in his last fight, his cardio had looked great, and I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think he's going to take this fight, and I think he's going to win, possibly inside the distance. This is going to be a really banger of a fight, and I'm absolutely looking forward to this one. So yes, I am taking Todorovic minus 160 to get it done. All right, next up in the men's featherweight division, we have a fight between Jacob Kilburn and Austin Lingo. Right now, Austin Lingo is a minus 225 favorite, and the comeback on Jacob Kilburn is plus 185. So I'm still trying to figure out why Austin Lingo is again a massive favorite. He came in his short notice UFC debut against Yusuf Zalal. I will never forget that, and absolutely shit the bed horribly. That was arguably one of the worst debut performances I have seen. And he was a massive favorite in that fight, and now he's a massive favorite in this fight. Other than the Zalal fight, he's literally fought and beaten nobody. Kilburn, I know he did not look good against Billy Quarantillo. He's got 3 losses on his record, but he's a legit good striker. And the 3 losses that Kilburn has is by submission, just getting out grappled by his opposition. That's where his weakness is. So Austin Lingo, 6 of his 7 wins have come by knockout, 1 by rear naked choke. If this fight is primarily on the feet, which I think it's going to be, I think this is a dog or pass situation. I don't see how Osalingo is just going to come in there and look like a minus 225 favorite and absolutely starch Kilburn. Kilburn is actually a really good kickboxer. He's shown that he's a good striker. And then he now trains at American Top Team. He made the transition all the way to American Top Team. He took time off as well from the last fight, 13 months. I think that time away, and I think all that training that he's getting at ATT, I think that's just going to get him a lot better. And you're getting him plus 185. There's no way I don't think anybody should be playing Austin Lingo at minus 225. I could be wrong. He comes in there and starches him and finishes Kilburn for the first time via TKO or KO. But I'll take the latter. I'll take the value on Kilburn here at plus 185. I just don't see it. I don't see Lingo coming in there and just absolutely starching Kilburn on the feet. And then maybe he just turns into a wrestler and takes him down, submits him. I don't see that, really happening in Lingo. That's not Lingo's game. So, yeah, I'm taking Kilburn here. I think you're getting a great price at plus 185. And hopefully he cashes for us as a big underdog. All right. Next up, we have in the women's bantamweight division a fight between Sarah Moras and Vanessa Melo. Right now, Moras is a minus 240 favorite, and the comeback on Melo is a plus 200 underdog. Man, I do not want to bet this fight whatsoever. Either one of these female fights, I am not touching whatsoever. I do not trust Moras with my money. I definitely don't trust Melo with my money. And then, yes, maybe I trust Moras a little bit more, than Melo. But at minus 240, that is just absurd. Do I trust her to get a submission, which is normally how she wins her fights? No. Do I trust her to win a decision? No. I don't trust either one of these two. I'm passing all day on this fight. Like I said, this is some of this year. I am looking to pass more than bet on some of these fights. Because, it's better for money management. It's better to just pass on fights that you don't have a strong lean on. It's better to just keep it moving. It's one of these fights where you can just go get a beer, get something to eat, come back and see the results when it's said and done. Just relax during this fight. You don't gotta bet everything. Pass all day. I don't want my money on either one of these two. If I'm siding with anyone, if I had to give a lean, if I had to pick a winner, it'd probably be Sarah Moras. All right. Next up on the featured bout on the prelims, we have a fight at heavyweight between Justin Tafa and Carlos Felipe. Right now, Felipe is a minus 190 favorite, and the comeback on Justin Tafa is a plus 165 underdog. Man, low-level MMA at its finest. So, with this fight, this is a lot closer than I think the odds are suggesting. But man, I don't think I could trust Justin Tafa at all. He hasn't looked great in his time in the UFC. He's gotten finished in his time in the UFC. He pretty much needs to get that KO within the first round, which is never good. And I see that a lot of people are actually taking Justin Tafa here. And I don't know. When I see over 50% on a dog, I don't want to touch that dog. Because 9 out of 10, most of the time when you see a public heavy underdog, they tend to lose. And Justin Tafa is one of those heavy dogs, heavy public dogs that I think is going to lose. I think Felipe, he's fought the better competition. He's looked better. I think he's got the better chin. He's a big dude. He's bigger. I think he's more agile. I think he's got, the better arsenal in his technique as well. I don't want to bet on either one of these two, but if I'm siding, I'm going to go with Felipe here. And like I said, if you go and look at some of these public percentages and you see a dog that's getting over 50%, stay away. That's not the type of dog you want to bet on. Public dogs don't tend to come in. I'm telling you. Jack Hermanson was a public dog. He didn't win. McFarlane over in Bellator, she was a big public dog. She didn't win. And there's a bunch of others that I can't really think of at the moment, but that's the type of thing I kind of have to look out for as well. If I see a lot of people betting on an underdog and the line isn't moving, there's a reason why it's not moving. So I'm going to take Carlos Felipe in this fight. I think he's got more tools. I think he'll be able to get it done here, but I'm not going to go ahead and bet on either one of these two. Next up on the first fight on the main card for this weekend's fights is a fight at 170 pounds between Carlos Condit and Matt Brown. This is a fight between two absolute veterans of this sport. Two guys that are pretty much over the hill as far as when it comes to their MMA careers, but they're two guys that are absolute warriors in the cage. And I'm actually looking forward to this fight. This is going to be an absolute banger. These two guys love to throw down, love to get their hands dirty, and just absolutely get into a bloodbath, especially Carlos Condit and Matt Brown. These two guys are going to go at it until one of them falls. And if I'm going to go with anybody, I'm going with Carlos Condit here. I think we're getting a great line on him at minus 165. I think Carlos Condit should be a much heavier favorite, especially coming in with Matt Brown, who's 2-4 in his last 6. All 4 losses have been coming inside the distance, and Matt Brown's only 2 wins have come against Diego Sanchez and Ben Saunders. Diego Sanchez is about to retire after his next fight, and Ben Saunders is already retired. And then Matt Brown just got folded in his last fight, and I don't think he's going to be able to take the punches that Carlos Condit's going to come at him. He's just got a ton of power. He's still good. He's still sharp with his striking. And you talk about Carlos Condit, who's only been finished by KO or TKO once, and that was by prime Tyron Woodley. I don't see Matt Brown being the first guy since then, especially since all the guys that Carlos Condit has fought throughout the years. I don't think Matt Brown is going to be the guy to finish Carlos Condit here, especially by knockout. Majority of the time, if Carlos Condit gets finished, it's by submission, or he's getting wrestle fucked for 15 minutes, and that's not Matt Brown's game. So I'm taking Carlos Condit here, minus 165. I think we're getting a great price, and I absolutely love the under 2.5 rounds at plus 110. I think that's an absolute steal. The line's been moving drastically. I think it was at plus 130 earlier last week. So money's been coming in, and that's definitely going to sway towards a favorite line because majority of the time, if Matt Brown loses, it's going to be inside the distance. So I'm taking Carlos Condit here. I'm big on him. He wins inside the distance, and this is going under 2.5 rounds. All right, next up in the middleweight division, we have a fight between Joaquin Buckley and Alessio Di Chirico. Right now, Buckley is a heavy minus 270 favorite, and the comeback on Di Chirico is a plus 230 underdog. All right, I think this would be a good fight. I just don't put too much stock in Alessio's game. He's not the greatest striker. He's not the greatest wrestler. He's an all-around okay fighter. In comes Joaquin Buckley, coming off 2 big knockout wins. He's 2-1 in his last 3. His only lone loss was against Kevin Holland on, I think, 2 days' notice. So you can't really fault him there. It's a big step up of competition. He looked good, actually, in the first 1.5 rounds until he kind of gassed himself out, on 48 hours notice after fighting just a week or 2 prior to that at LFA. You can't really fault him there. But then he comes back and does, spectacular spinning back kick against Impa Kasanganay, and then he deads Jordan Wright. So he's been looking good. He's looking fresh. This is, I wouldn't say a step up a competition. It's more of a step up a competition between Jordan Wright. But I think Impa Kasanganay was a much stiffer competition than Alessio Di Chirico would be. And Di Chirico, I think, is on a 3 or 4 fight losing streak, or this will be his 4th fight losing streak if he does lose to Buckley here. Alessio's back against the wall. He really needs a win here, so that doesn't really bode well for him. And I think as long as he doesn't gas out and he can defend takedowns and get out of the clinch work that Alessio is going to want to wear down Buckley, because at space Buckley's going to he's going to throw some heavy leather, and Alessio is definitely not going to want any part of that. So he's going to want to get in, clinch up, make this work on the cage, and go from there. But I'm taking Buckley here. I think we're getting a decent price on him to win via decision, which is like around plus 230. This could be one of those fights where he goes the distance and you get a pretty good line. But I think Buckley is a pretty good parlay piece to whatever plays you have, because I do think he comes out victorious here and gets on a 3-fight win streak. And, the hype, I guess you could say the hype is real, but until he gets really tested against somebody in the top 15, we really won't know. But with that said, I am taking Buckley here. I think he wins this in every facet of the game. All right, next up is a fight at 170 pounds between Santiago Ponzinibio and Jingliang Li. This is going to be a banger of the fight. I'm super excited for this fight. Ponzinibio is coming back after multiple injuries, 2-year layoff. Maybe he's a changed fighter since all the injuries and that. We really don't know. But, man, if he comes back in the same shape, in the same form like he did as he left against Neil Magny, he's going to make some strides. And he's taking on Lee, who's willing to go in there and and brawl with you. So this is going to be I think this is going to be a closer fight than the line suggests, because Lee is actually a pretty underrated striker. When it comes to grappling, that's where, it's a lot to be desired, losing to Neil Magny the way he did, losing to Jake Matthews the way he did. But the dude's got some power, and he's got good accuracy. He doesn't get a hit a whole lot, so I would be weary just going all in on Santiago here. But I do think Santiago gets the win here. I just think he's fought the better competition. He's been on the roll. He's looked great, off his last fight. But the thing is, we don't know what kind of form he's in on a 2-year layoff. So it's something to really be worried about. That's why I wouldn't go too heavy on him here. Maybe throw him in like one parlay or so. But I would not be surprised if Lee comes out victorious here. But I just think there's still levels to this, and I think Ponzinibio is still the better all-around fighter. All right. Next up in the co-main event of the evening, we have a fight at 185 pounds between Omari Akhmedov and Tom Breese. Right now, Breese is a minus 150 favorite, and the comeback on Akhmedov is a plus 130 underdog. This is it's going to be a really close fight, really interesting fight. It's going to be interesting to see how Breese is going to do defending the takedowns, getting up. Breese is definitely going to be the better striker of the two. But what boils down to it is, can he defend the takedowns? Can he get back up and make Akhmedov work? If he makes Akhmedov work, he can come victorious here just by wearing him out, because we've seen Akhmedov slow down immensely as fights get towards the later portions of round 2 and round 3, especially when he's going all in for the takedowns. So if Breese is able to make him work for those takedowns early, it's going to pay dividends in rounds 2 and 3. This is a good live betting opportunity here. because I think Tom Breeze can lose round 1, but pick it up in rounds 2 and 3. Same thing that happened with Chris Weidman. He was losing round 1 and picked it up in rounds 2 and 3 just by sheer of Akhmedov just absolutely going cardio dump in rounds 2 and 3. He landed on top in round 3 and just stuck there. So I think, more of that could possibly happen in this fight. And I do think Tom Breeze is obviously the younger, more athletic fighter, and he's got some pretty good jiu-jitsu to boot as well. So I'm taking Tom Breeze here, minus 150. I think that's still a good line, but definitely look to live bet him after round 1. I think we can get him at plus money when Akhmedov is probably going to gas in a later portion of round 2 and 3. Even you can get possibly a round 3 finish prop on Tom Breeze and probably get some pretty good juice there. And here we are, the main event of the evening, and a banger of a fight. A great fight to come back to after a 3-week hiatus in the 145-pound division. A fight between Max Blessed Holloway and Calvin Kattar. The Boston finisher, Calvin Kattar. Wow, what an absolute crazy fight to come back to. I'm so stoked for this one. Right now, Max is a minus 155 favorite, and the comeback on Calvin Kattar is a plus 135 underdog. Man, this is a tough one. Right off the bat, I'll tell you one thing I'm definitely betting on. It's over 4.5 rounds. I don't think either one of these two are getting finished. As I've stated on numerous posts throughout the weeks, Max Holloway has absorbed 900 significant strikes. That's right, 900 significant strikes, and has never, ever been knocked down. Not one single time. That is absolutely insane, guys. But in comes Calvin Kattar. He's got some crazy power, some excellent boxer, very good at distance striking and using his range, using his reach. He's got the reach advantage in this fight as well. He can go volume for volume with Max. It's just, I don't know. This is such a hard fight to choose. I do like the plus money on Calvin Kattar here, but I still think Max Holloway is as good as, who has Max Holloway lost to in his last 4 fights? The only 2 people he has lost to is Dustin Poirier at 155 pounds for the interim lightweight title, might I add, on short notice. And then he also fought Alexander Volkanovski twice. And, the first one, he didn't look as great. But the second fight, he looked phenomenal. Win or lose, he looked phenomenal in the fight. He looked like a brand new Max Holloway, and he gave Volkanovski fits. He gave him a ton of problems, especially with his new kicking regimen that he's got going on. The head kicks, the body kicks. Those kicks are going to come in handy because that is really what gives Calvin Kattar a lot of troubles. We've seen it in his fight against Zabit Magomedsharipov as well as Renato Moicano. Those kicks are their bread and butter against Calvin Kattar. Kattar is just a pure boxer coming forward, looking to throw hands, throw down, and it's fantastic. He's got some crazy power. You've seen that step-in elbow against Jeremy Stephens. You've seen what he did against Dan Ige. This is a fight where Kattar can show that he is the next big thing at 145 pounds. But, man, I think it's just a huge step up from Stephens and Dan Ige to Max Holloway. You're going from, Dan Ige to Max Holloway is a pretty massive step up. And And it's not like Max Holloway really lost a step. He went toe-to-toe with Dustin Poirier. He landed 200, 300 strikes against him. He went toe-to-toe with Volkanovski twice. Outstruck him, I think, in at least the second fight. But yeah, I think the odds makers are really disrespecting Max here. I think he should be a heavier favorite, and I think at minus 155, I do think he can get it done here. I still think Max Holloway is the cream of the crop at 145 pounds. And he's going to show why he's still one of the best ever. He might not get another title shot anytime soon, but if he keeps beating contenders, at least 2 or 3 more, I think he's warranted to get another shot, especially considering a lot of people thought Max Holloway, won that fight. So we will see how that goes, but I'm definitely taking Max Holloway here, and I'm taking the over 4.5 rounds. Max Holloway by decision at plus 125 is also a very, very good play there as well. And with us, our special guest on this breakdown is Jimmy the Brick Flick. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How's it going, man?
Hey, man, it's going great, man. Just living the life.
Man, I need to say congratulations, formally congratulate you on air for your magnificent performance, your UFC debut, coming in and absolutely showing off. It was phenomenal. I just want to get your thoughts on, what perspired, what was like going on in your head while everything was going on during that fight, the octagon jitters, the walkout. I just want to know your feeling of how that day, came about and how it went down for you.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And, man, it went good, man. I mean, looked like it didn't start off too great, but that was just, coming out fast. And we fought at like 1:30 Vegas time, too, man. So it was super early. It was weird. We got to the venue super early. I think that threw me off a little bit. But besides that, everything went great, man. Like you said, I was going out for that leg kick a lot right off the bat, and he was ready for it. And then I ended up getting put in a bad position. I ended up getting out of the bad position, getting back to my feet. I could already feel he was starting to fade. I think the weight cut back-to-back was really going to affect him, and I think it did. And then I just threw up the head kick, and we worked on the head kick a lot, and it landed, but he ended up tackling me, and I threw up the flying triangle, and that was it. That's all she wrote.
Man, I will remember that arguably for the rest of my life, because like I said, like I was telling you in a message afterwards, I was running down Miami Beach, Collins Avenue, screaming and yelling. People looking at me like I have 10 heads. They're like, what the fuck is going on? My family's yelling at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? Man, it was exciting to finally see that fight and see you win in emphatic fashion and arguably have one of the craziest submissions in UFC history. Like that will go down as one of the best submissions in UFC history. Could you have, drawn out a better UFC debut?
Man, no, not at all, man, especially with it getting prolonged 2 weeks and it being on the last card of the UFC, man. So, like I said, I figured everything happens for a reason, and I knew when the fight got canceled, they offered it for 2 weeks later, and I really actually thought about turning it down. I didn't know if I wanted to turn around and cut the weight again and fight that soon and prolong my camp. Because we trained to peak at a certain time, man. I was ready to peak, I was ready to fight on December 5th. And, but we turned around, we got right back in the gym, and we pushed it for 2 more weeks, and everything worked out great. And we ended up getting that bonus. So, you couldn't have predicted this any other way, and it's amazing how it turned out.
Man, when I heard you got the bonus, I was super happy for you because I know you've come a long way. I've been following your journey for years now, and you took one of the hardest routes to get to the UFC, fighting veterans, fighting UFC, and, caliber fighters, veterans of the UFC, top tier. You're not fighting bums. You're not fighting people with like no wins and inflated records to get there. You took one of the hardest routes to get to the UFC, and you're pretty much like the typical fighter that you want some of these young fighters to look up to. Like I know some guys that go through hardships for losing fights, and I'm like, guys, just look at someone like Jimmy Flick. The dude's been doing this for 10 years. He fought his ass off, and he just kept pushing forward and finally got the call. And look at him now. He's on the top of the world. He's one of the best flyweight contenders in the entire UFC. And you're pretty much like the model UFC fighter now for some of these young kids that are trying to get into the game. So do you feel like you're like a role model now coming, into your UFC prime?
For these people around my town, for sure, man. I come from a little town in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. It's outside of Tulsa. It's not very big. I'm the first fighter from Sand Springs, Oklahoma to make it to the UFC, and that's kind of a big deal to me. And that's what I want to do. I want to be a role model. I want to be a, motivating speaker for these kids. I want to tell my story. It wasn't easy growing up. I had 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters, and we didn't live the best life, And I got 2 little girls right now, and I don't want them to live the life I lived at all. And I've worked really hard to get here. Like you said, I've grinded for 10 years as a professional, not including as a year as an amateur. I've got pro kickboxing fights. I got pro Muay Thai fights. I got pro boxing fights. I got pro grappling matches. I mean, I've done literally any and everything I can to get paid and put my name out there in mixed martial arts. And it's finally paid off. And we had a hell of a UFC debut. And now I'm hoping to look forward to 2021 and make another hell of a run with this UFC contract and see what happens for me on my UFC journey.
Oh, hell yeah, man. I'm so looking forward to your next fight and more fights to come. Could we see you coming up in the first quarter of 2021, second half maybe, or are you just going with the flow and whatever they, give you'll take?
We haven't talked about nothing yet, but as you can see in some of my interviews, I've mentioned March and April. I think by that time I'll be able to have my wife's business up and going and be able to focus on training. I'm trying to get back to training right now. I've done a little bit here and there throughout the week, but I'm not back to full-time training yet. Going back to full-time work has been a difference. The last 4 weeks before my fight, I had off work. So now going back to work and trying to train and, be with my family, it's a lot more tiring than I'm used to right now. So I'm trying to get back into the grind and keep pushing. But I would really like March or April, and I would like to fight at least 3 times in 2021.
3 times would be absolutely magnificent. Do you have anybody in mind that you would want to fight? I mean, not calling anybody out, but is there somebody that you thought, would be a great matchup or just be a great fight for the fans and another way to get $50,000 back in your pocket again? Is anybody on your mind?
I mean, everybody really is on my mind, man. I mean, you got Amir Abazi at number 14. You got Matt Schnell. You got, what's his name? Tyson Nam. We got Tim Elliott. We got Jordan Espinosa. Brandon Roybal.
Damn. Yeah. Killers. That's crazy.
France just got booked. So I know he just got booked for March 6th versus some other guy. I don't really know his name, but he's 2-1, and they got him ranked as well. So I really want to start training to be on standby if one of these top fights fall out, where I can be on standby to be able to jump in on short notice and get one of those ranked opponents. Because that's what I might have to do.
Yeah, no, I got you. I mean, it's a crazy time with how COVID is going on. I mean, fighters are testing negative and then getting positive another day, and being ready and on standby, like you said, it's going to give you the best opportunity to really get your name out there and possibly shoot up the rankings and eventually get a title shot. I mean, just staying ready and just fighting. But I'm super excited to see you coming up fighting again, and I just want to see you back in there. But with that said, I know you're here to help us break down at least the main event of this weekend's fight at UFC Fight Island 7. And in the main event is Max Holloway taking on Calvin Kattar. From a betting perspective, right now, Max Holloway is a slight favorite at a minus 155 favorite. And to come back on Calvin Kattar is a plus 135 underdog. If you were placing your money, who would you be betting on in this fight?
I gotta go with Max Holloway 100%. I do think it's gonna be a great fight. I think Calvin's gonna put on an amazing fight. But I think Max, he's got the reach. And he's got really good, even though Calvin really don't look for the takedown that much. I think Max will, be able to use his striking and get a decision here, a unanimous decision by just picking apart Calvin.
Yeah, man, I'm super looking forward to that fight. That's going to be an absolute banger. Crazy stat. Max Holloway has absorbed 900 significant strikes and has never been knocked down one time. The other guys that have absorbed as many strikes, each of them have been knocked down at least 4 times or knocked out at least 4 times. So crazy stat for him. Dude takes a lot of punishment, but he's got one of those iron chins. It's going to be one for the storybooks. I think there's going to be an immense amount of volume and striking and craziness in that fight. And it's one hell of a fight to come back to after a 3-week hiatus. I know you're limited on time. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you got family and things to do. But before we go, you can, if you have anyone to shout out, shout them out. And then as far as where everybody can find you on social media so you can get your name out there to even more people. I think you just got your blue check mark, so that's awesome. So you're somebody, you're in there, just get your name out there as much as you can, man.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks to all my sponsors for the support. They've been taking great care of me. They all know who they are. I can't thank them enough. I really appreciate everybody. If you can follow me on Instagram at The Brick MMA, you can follow me on Facebook at Jimmy the Brick Flick. My personal Facebook is at a friend request, so I'm trying to get everybody over to my fan page. And then I'm on Twitter at Jimmy Flick. So I really appreciate everybody for the support, all my sponsors. Appreciate you bringing me on here, and thank you for all the support. I can't wait to get back in the octagon.
Absolutely, man. And thank you so much for coming on to the very first episode of The Breakdown. So thank you so much. We will be seeing you very, very soon. I can't wait, man. So you have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one, man.
I appreciate it.
Later, bro.
Later.
All right, guys. That was Jimmy the Brick Flick with us on the breakdown. So yeah, guys, that's what we got for you for this week's breakdown for UFC Fight Island 7. You guys know where to find me on Twitter, The Fight Analyst, Instagram, The Fight Analyst, and Facebook, The Fight Analyst. It's Twitter, it's Fight Analysts. Sorry about that. But and guys, like and subscribe to this page. We're going to get a ton of content. There's a ton more content coming up in 2021. I'm going to put out so much more stuff. Also head over to Fight Bananas and like them and subscribe to their page as well. A ton more content is coming your way. Friday night, I'll be back on the Fighter and the Analyst with my man Peter Petties, breaking down this fight card as well. And then I will be on Sunday recapping the entire week on the Sunday morning scrap live on the Fight Analyst YouTube page as well as Fight Bananas YouTube page. With that said, we will see you all cashing out at the ticker window. Until next time.